They beat the Brewers 20-9 on Saturday. I was in attendance to see all of it, probably the craziest game that I've ever been to. Back-to-back-to-back home runs off Nestor Cortes to start the game. They set a new franchise record with 9 homers as a team. Poor Nestor Cortes, by the way, too. I felt so bad for the guy. It was very warm, 80 degrees. The ball was flying out. Aaron Judge, 4 for 6 with a triple dong on Saturday, 8 RBI. Then each of Goldschmidt, Bellinger, Austin Wells, Anthony Volpe, Jazz Chisholm, and Oswald Peraza each hit a home run in that game. Nestor Cortes' final line, he allowed 8 earned runs over 2+ innings. And then on Sunday, they win 12-3. So a lot more home runs here, 4 more in this game. Judge hit his 4th. Jazz Chisholm hit 2 more. Ben Rice hit 1 as well. But the big story coming out of this is these new torpedo bats that the Yankees are using. And for those watching on YouTube, I'll pull up a tweet here just so you can see a picture comparing the normal bat that someone would use versus the torpedo bat, which is on the top here. And they kind of look like bowling pins, right? Like, it's just the barrel is like expanded basically here. And per a league's spokesperson, the shape of the bat does not violate any rules. And look, I don't know much about it. It kind of feels like a huge advantage here. Every other team could do the same exact thing. I mean, obviously the baseball world is freaking out about this, but any thoughts here on the Yankees? I don't know if there's actually any fantasy takeaways. Maybe they're just going to continue to mash home runs with these new bats. But yeah, any takeaways on the Yankees and I guess these torpedo bats?
Yeah, sure. I'll start, I guess. It does seem like, the fat part of the bat is often referenced. You want to hit the ball on the fat part of the bat. But the fattest part of the bat traditionally is the very edge of the bat, which you actually don't want to hit the ball on. So what this seems to be doing is making the quote unquote fat part of the bat actually the fattest part of the bat. And it can be tailored to a player's specific, where a player specifically hits the ball of the bat. Like, for instance, this came up, as I understand it, because the Yankees discovered Anthony Volpe, instead of actually hitting the ball in the sweet spot, he was hitting it more off the label. So his bulge is closer to the label of the bat. It's obviously gained a lot of attention. Buster Olney, I heard him saying on the ESPN broadcast of the Padres Braves game that the Braves placed an order for a bunch of these bats. And I guess maybe we'll start seeing some of them use it soon. It's not new, which maybe you were about to comment on, Chris. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I've got a different tack to take.
Okay, it's not new. Which is worth noting that the Yankees were using it in the postseason last year. Other players have been using it. Chris, I think you brought up before the show Ketel Marte as far back as 2019, which I'll note was Ketel Marte's breakout season where he kind of emerged as a hitting stud. But even so, it's not like I think the only reason it became such a big story right now is because the Yankees had a game like they had on Friday or Saturday, right, against Nestor Cortes. But I'll note is Nestor Cortes, who's a pitcher who doesn't have great stuff and relies on locating it precisely. And if any teams, and his fastball was down like over a mile per hour, and if any team is going to have a good read on Nestor Cortes, it would be the Yankees. So I think that had just as much to do with it. The next day, Aaron Savale, again, you're not talking about a high-end arm here. So I'm not saying there's no benefit to using this. There probably is. But I think it's an advantage around the margins. And I don't think we should be racing to trade for or pick up anyone who we hear about using one of these bats going forward.
If there was one weird trick that could solve baseball, it would have been solved already. And yeah, Ketel Marte, according to one of the Blue Jays commentators, Caleb Joseph, who played with Ketel Marte, yeah, Marte was using a variation of this bat in 2019. I found a photo where you can see it looks a little thicker in the barrel part than at the end. So yeah, there seems to be something there. But also, like, the guy who designed them is now working for the Marlins. He was with the Yankees in the past. Frank, did you read the Trevor McGill quote?
I did not. I have it, but you can read it as well if you have it.
Yeah. I think it's terrible. We'll see what the data says. I've never seen anything like it. It's like something used in slow pitch softball, blah, blah, blah. Put the mass all in one spot. It might be Bush League. It might not be. But it's the Yankees, so they'll let it slide. And like, brother, Rhys Hoskins is quoted today saying that he already placed an order for this before the Yankees hit 9 home runs on Saturday. Like, every team, it seems, we're learning now, has been experimenting with these in spring training. Some guys say they don't like them. Aaron Judge, notably, not using them. He's using his same old normal bats. Look, a 0.5% improvement in performance would be worth changing your bat for. And maybe it's bigger than that. Maybe it's a 5. I have trouble believing it's like just going to increase everyone's quality of contact by 20% on the Yankees. Like, that seems ridiculous. It seems ridiculous to try to blame what happened on Saturday on 3 guys in the lineup using a specific type of bat. I think it was Jazz and Anthony Volpe were the only ones who hit home runs with the new bats on Saturday. And I think Ben Rice did on Sunday. Those are the only ones that I've seen. So like, it just doesn't, it seems like it's much ado about nothing. It seems like it's just
I think Bellinger's using it too.
I think Austin Wells too, and he already has.
Austin
Wells.
Wells.
Well, maybe Cody Bellinger is using it with only 2 strikes to go back to the last weird trick.
Maybe
that everybody was, but it just, I don't know, man. Maybe it's like the guys from MIT, right? So like, he's smarter than me, and I'm not going to say there's nothing here. But like the idea that it's like some revolutionary thing because the Yankees hit 9 home runs in one game, I don't find it particularly compelling. I think they like Scott said, ran into some bad pitchers on a bad day.
Nestor Cortes, by the way, is still 82% rostered on CBS. I don't want to overreact to one game. It was a really bad game where he gave negative 17 fantasy points. But is this, if you play in a 12-team league, is this just like an insta drop on Nestor Cortes, or don't overreact and hold on?
He's pretty fringy in a 12-team league, I'd say. So if you wanted to, I'm not. There wasn't some. Well, Chris just wrote waiver wire, but to my recollection, there wasn't some starting pitcher who I was like, oh, I got to add this guy based on his performance. Maybe Chris Bassett came the closest, and I think he and Cortez are about on equal footing.
It depends what
Jeffrey Springs.
It depends what roster rate you're talking about. Jeffrey Springs is 65%.
Yeah.
Would much rather have him than Nestor Cortes.
Sure.
I would drop Nestor Cortes for Jack Leiter. I would drop him for Max Meyer. I think
Meyer was pretty good. Yeah.
I think he's fringy enough that like, I don't know what, like, it might just depend. Like, what is Nestor Cortez's next start compared to what is Zach Littell's next start? Like, I think
look ahead.
Yeah,
look ahead. Exactly. Like, look at my sleeper pitchers for the upcoming week. Chris Paddock lined up for 2 starts, the first against the White Sox.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
And trying to remember who the other big one is, but definitely Paddock would be one who's highly available.
And Jose Soriano, he pitched against the White Sox. He's got Cleveland and Tampa the next 2. I would be fine dropping Nestor Cortes because there's no way I'm starting Nestor Cortes in his next one. And there are a couple other pitchers.
Drew Rasmussen's pretty widely available. He's got 2 starts coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Bubich actually is similar.
Yeah, so I'm totally fine dropping Nestor Cortes.
Cade Povich. What about Cade Povich? He's only like 15% roster, 2 starts coming up, Boston and Kansas City.
So in tomorrow's newsletter, I didn't write about Nestor Cortes, but I did write about Walker Buehler, who is someone that I'm totally fine dropping after his first start. And I'm kind of anyone with any amount of upside. The Jack Leiter,
sure.
Max Meyer, Jeffrey Springs, Cade Povich, sure.
Because the thing is, like, Nestor Cortes may go on to have a typical Nestor Cortes season, high 3 ERA, good whip, decent strikeout rate. But if he's fringy to begin with in your format, nobody's picking him up after this start. So it gives you an opportunity to kind of scout someone else, get a head start on it, so that if he has a great start, you're not having to compete on the waiver wire for him.